Alright guys, so what's going on is I'm going to respond to part of a video by HazeOutdoors. The video is the last in his Cape Wrath Trail hiking video series where he's finishing his journey. The video is called 14 Days in the Wild, Solo Backpacking in the Scottish Highlands, Cape Wrath Trail. Cape Wrath Trail Part 9. So, HazeOutdoors is a great YouTuber. He's basically the best I've found hiking YouTuber. Hiking and camping. So I'm sort of in that sphere. I don't know whether you want to call it that. I'm sort of in that part of YouTube quite a lot, as I do those sorts of videos myself from time to time. A lot of my channel is hiking and camping, walks on Dartmoor in the southwest of England. It's not everything I do, clearly. So in that respect, my channel's a little bit more similar to Bjorn, Andreas, Bull-Hansen's channel.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy. By now you should have heard that one before. This is a wealth redistribution.
Because I do the outdoors stuff and I do talking vlogs about politics and shit that's going on in the world. Freedom politics and other stuff, but that's the main things. HazeOutdoors doesn't really do any of the politics stuff, so I found HazeOutdoors on YouTube after or during the lockdown. I was in a bit of a mess around that point, like not knowing whether the COVID and lockdown thing were real or not, and over time I came to my decisions and realised that it was all absolute nonsense, essentially. One big trick against the public. I think HazeOutdoors at the time sort of stayed in the mindset that the was a thing, and I don't know how much he deviated from that. He deviated a little bit, I think. You could see in the background he was against what was happening in a way because it would have constricted his freedom as a hiker, and he used to take a lot of hikes and he used to be a nature boy, at one with the outdoors, like don't stop me from going out. And part of the whole lockdown process was that the government stopped people from going out walking, and during the time, like when they stopped us from going out walking and said you could only go a certain amount of distance, like I completely ignored that and I went walking as much as possible and to all sorts of places, and you could tell that so did he. So there was times when there were rules set out and he was not complying with the rules and I was not complying with the rules. So I think that even though he was like sort of every now and then when he talked about it a tiny bit, he was saying it might have been something that existed and that was real, but in conduct what he was doing was more like going against the rules and getting out there. At the times when they said stay in, he would go out. Anyway, I really enjoyed his channel at the time because he was going out during lockdowns. I got into him, and because he didn't talk politics, like 98% of his videos is just non-political, like a tiny 2% of his videos. He would slip into politics here and there in a normie way, in an accidental way, in a sort of, I don't actually know history, I don't know politics, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm saying, I'm just saying this stuff, trying to think about what might be good and what might be bad, but not really knowing, and just like voices thoughts for a moment. So what I'm going to be responding to is one of those rare 2% moments where HazeOutdoors actually slipped into some politics that he didn't know what he was talking about on, just for a moment at the end of his hiking trip up the Cape Wrath Trail. Now what I'm going to respond to and what I'm going to show you is not at all indicative of his channel overall, and I would say that you should definitely subscribe to HazeOutdoors. He is one of the best YouTubers. He's very humble and very good at what he does, and he'll teach you a lot of things that you should know, I think, and he'll help you like connect with nature and get outdoors and take on exercise and getting away from the cities and getting away from the control of governments. And what he does is that, you know. It's all about getting away from all these kind of areas where there are systems of control, and he does it in a very charming way, and he's very funny, and he's a Yorkshireman, so he slips into all sorts of Yorkshirist, proper like local culture for Yorkshire people, I guess, in his mannerisms and what he says and what he does, which is excellent. You know, like if I met him or knew him in real life, he'd be my friend. And there'd be no doubts about it. That'd ever not be the case. He's that sort of guy where it's just very affable. And so, without further ado, here's him dropping the ball that one time, quite a long time ago now. So I'm responding to the past, and slipping into accidental socialism. Let's have a look.
Nearly there. So we go down here, along here, up, and it's just over the tip of there. 20 to 9. I set off at 6. That's good going actually. I've not had a break, I've just soldiered on. So a lot of people say this bit's I mean, I don't want to speak too soon, but that this bit is a nightmare. But I'm really enjoying it because there is no path, and I like that. It's a good, sometimes it's a nice feeling. You know, just to mooch, mate, just to mooch in the middle of nowhere, get a good old yomp on. So
right now he's on the last leg of his journey, and he's ended up in this wilderness area by the coast. He's already done a lot of hiking on his channel by this point, and he's just, I think what he's getting into in his normie mind in a minute is some age of exploration type stuff, where it's like, what have we conquered on the earth? Where have we been? What's the next place for explorers to explore? But that led him to some, I would say, incorrect conclusions.
Unless I'm missing something from here until track, which isn't that far. It's I've enjoyed this section, and it's sort of flown through it. Oh, look at that, mate. Straight down to the sea. I've been thinking quite a bit, and obviously, because what else are you going to do? Like, it's so vast, and I was just thinking about like exploring, and us as a human race exploring. Hold on. I've just been fascinated, like fixated on the fact that, like, we need, this is going to sound crazy, this, isn't it? Right near end as well, and you've supported me throughout this whole journey. And then I'm there, now I'm going to be like, you think I'm a bit of a loon, but...
He's kind of gauging his audience reaction and gauging like normal people's or normies' reaction as a normie. He thinks if he goes talking about like space or like UFOs or ghosts or something, if he talks about space exploration in particular, he thinks that the people he's used to talking to, like non-political normies, would think he's a bit crazy for doing so. Like, you shouldn't think or talk about things out of your reach, sort of thing. It's a bit not grounded, I suppose. And his comments kind of reflect that. I'm going to press play.
Just as a species, we need to start exploring up there. Outer space, and that's all I've been thinking about for a little bit anyway. And there's such a taboo on it, because as soon as I say, even me saying it out loud, I say, oh, what we need to do is form one world government and use all our resources to explore outer space.
Pause it right there. Obviously. Yeah, I mean, he's saying that, you know, it's out of his wheelhouse, and people would find it crazy if he goes off talking about exploring space. But what he jumps to next is a deal breaker for me. He says, you know, the way we do it is to form one world government. And this is a false idea that a lot of people in the past had, that the only way you would conquer space is to end all wars, and to do that by uniting all countries under a one world government, which is extremely authoritarian and insane, and will not bring about peace, will actually create more war. Where do you start? Okay, Haze. Unity is what led to World War One, so let's get that out of the way. Collectivism is something that also breeds war. Unity and collectivism go hand in hand. Thinking you need to amalgamate everyone into a group, or do the opposite of what Hans Hermann Hoppe says. He surmises that a good way of creating peace would be to divide all the countries of the world further into like 1,000, he calls it 1,000 Liechtensteins. And if I can find it, I'll play the clip here. There's a really nice clip.
What we need is a Europe of 1,000 Liechtensteins. Liechtenstein has 36,000 inhabitants. In Liechtenstein, the Prince of Liechtenstein allows these 6 or 7 villages which compose Liechtenstein to each secede from Liechtenstein to become independent of Liechtenstein, or to join Austria, or to join Switzerland, whatever they want. Why would that be good? Why should we promote the secessionist movements or decentralization? Because if we have states at all, and as long as we have any states at all, it is best to have as many of them as possible, because then they have to compete for people to stay there and not move to other places. They have to treat their people in a nice way, otherwise they simply disappear, less likely to engage in warlike activities.
Hans Hermann Hoppe discussing how if you divide nations into even smaller nations and even more nations, it actually works out better, because you're getting further away from collectivism and large groups, and you're getting closer into individualism by dividing and dividing. People say, oh, divide and conquer is evil, division is evil, it stops us doing good things. That's not true at all. In my view, and Ayn Rand's view, I think as well, if you divide, like the smallest indivisible is the individual. To destroy collectivism, you divide the collectives. You keep dividing the collectives until they're smaller and smaller, until the point where they're tiny local communities, and then divide that further, and eventually you end up with individuals, and then you can't divide the individual. You've ended up at the final indivisible, which is each person is their own person. The group doesn't exist anymore. Each group is consisting of one person, so there are no groups. And people will think, again, when you get to that stage, there's atomized individualism and everyone's a lone wolf and they're lonely and they can't work together and they're all like, no, that's not what being an individualist is. When you're an individualist, you do things consensually, you do things voluntarily, like you team up with people to work with them and to cooperate with them voluntarily, consensually, and via trade. So via trade is very simple. It's like, I'll give you something if you give me something. We'll work out the value and we'll decide and agree upon whether we want to trade. Or you want to be a part of some building project, you choose to be a part of it consensually in return for payment of goods or services or money. If you pay me this amount, then I will work on your construction building project to build this bridge for this amount of days, which I think goes with the money, that sort of thing. This is the cooperation that you get with individuals. Individualism is a good thing, collectivism is a bad thing. Governments are evil enough. Haze, please look into the evils of government, the history of government, all the atrocities it has caused, all the mass killings, all the control, everything. And think again, especially as you may have gone through lockdown. I know you saw lockdown in a different way to me once I found out what was going on, especially pertaining to the World Economic Forum and the UN, which you can call me a conspiracy theory if you want, but many conspiracy theories have been proved true. I'm the Galilean type of conspiracy theorist. Galileo, of course, got under house arrest for the remaining part of his life by the Catholic Church when he brought about the conspiracy theory that the Earth revolves around the sun. So he's the original OG conspiracy theorist, and this kind of goes quite relevantly with what you're saying here. So no, we should not need a world government which would come with intense control of all the populace, intense slavery and imprisonment of all of us, at which point we just become cattle, basically. All those cows you're passing on your trips that you're ready to pick fights with, jokingly of course, but it's funny whenever you do that. I'm gonna take on this bull and I'm gonna win. Well, we become cattle under the instance of a world government, so think about that.
To explore outer space and search for extraterrestrial life and life on other planets and in habitable planets for us as a species to explore. Because I was just thinking,
it's a nice, like, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's a nice intention, it's a good intention. I think, you know, you can say via Elon Musk, who's kind of taking over from NASA now, but he's also quite an authoritarian, and he's the corporate kind of evil authoritarianism. But, you know, he's the only way we're going to get to space right now, so that part of him we need around. Yeah, it's a problem that he's the guy, but maybe that'll change in future once he's got us out to space. But, you know, it is like a child's dream, of course, to go out into space and explore the planets, but also we've landed on the moon. I know there are other conspiracy theorists who are not, I would say, the Galilean sort, who would say that we haven't landed on the moon and that that's all fictional. Sorry, I personally believe that we have landed on the moon, but I am very miffed, and I have been through most of my life, that we haven't managed to get back to the moon and we haven't landed on Mars. I'm very, very interested in how we landed on Mars with the rovers. I say we, it sounds like a collectivism, like we didn't. Some very rich government-owned space agencies have done it via the theft of public money, should I say. But we, the public, have not done it ourselves. We've just watched the government do it, claiming to be on behalf of the human race, but the government are never on behalf of the human race. So at least we can see that it's possible and that it's doable. I think it's better in corporate hands, or should I say business and company hands? Because at one point there was competition. When SpaceX first arose, and I think Virgin, the company Virgin, under Richard Branson, who is a bit of a fucking commie, but there was him, there was SpaceX, and there was a bunch of other companies that NASA was, like NASA kind of eased off their monopoly on space travel for a moment to get a bunch of competitive people from the public to see if they could build the best rocket, and we got a few little space agencies out of that weren't NASA. So yeah, I think it's a good intention, and I think it's a good thing to want. Humans, I mean, I'm not a humanist, so I'd be more of what other people would call the selfish mindset, but I would call the objectivist mindset of Ayn Rand. Like, I would say anyone who can afford it, who has their own business, should be able to go into space based on what they can buy, and they should have the freedom to test their rockets in a place on their land that they own and get into space, so long as it doesn't interfere with other people's rockets and things like this. You know, do not encroach on the property or freedom of others while you exercise your own freedom and property. But yeah, I think we can do it without government. I think we can get up to space without them. That's entirely possible. Let's continue.
because I was just thinking that, right, when I was looking out around here, and this is it's you don't get more remote than this in the whole of the British Isles, and I know the British Isles isn't that remote really, but still it's just not grand enough, is it? We've been here, we've done it, we know.
So he's remarking on the vastness, and I do this sometimes, you like remark at the vastness of the landscape that you go hiking in. And yeah, one kind of exploration makes you think of exploration in general. It makes you think of other explorations like the sea and the stars. And other countries where you haven't been to yet. Oh my god, I can see a stoat. And he's away and I can't get him. That is a stoat. That is a stoat. Oh my god. He ran across the road and I couldn't get him. That's cool. I only got the tail end of that. He was very long bodied and he ran across the road. Fucking stoat of all that's the second one I've seen on Dartmoor. What the fuck? I wish I could film that in time. He's so fast. Distraction as fuck. Yeah, you think of exploration, and you can look back in history at the age of exploration when the first cartographers made their maps, and you can see these really squashed looking, all weird maps of the world. Of course, well, if you're into geography like me, you know what the map of the world looks like, and you know what maps of certain countries look like. So to see it all squashed and spaced out wrong, and with towns missing, and with weird named towns that don't sound quite like ours, it's really interesting. And learning about map making and all that, and navigation. That's something I should do a video on, about how some kids these days are just not educated in navigation. And particularly they don't know their left from their right, and they don't know the compass directions and various towns in the UK and America and where they are, sort of thing. This is the hiker, navigator, exploration mindset, and he shares it with me, that you go out there, and particularly when there's a lot of peaks and places that you want to go to, and you want to like go tour bagging or mountain bagging or peak bagging, you want to visit the mountains. You visit one and it's all like a big mystery landscape surrounding you, like, wow, I'm high up, but I've managed to get myself to this mountaintop. But there's so many more to explore, and over there I can see that mountain, and over there I can see that mountain, and that one over there. Oh my god, they're so mysterious. And then you go out and you go to those mountains, and you've been like, I've been to that one now. I've been to the second one that I saw from that first one. This is amazing. Now I know what that first one looks like from the second one that I saw from the first one. And then you visit all the other mountains that you saw. And then you get to a point where you kind of know a landscape that previously was an enigma to you. Just like the mystery goes away the more you explore, and you have to push yourself further and further into different places in order to purposefully get lost. And then and then you're not lost, because then you know those places too. And eventually you know like everywhere around your local area you've been, especially if you're a hiker. You know it all. You know all the mountains in this area, and you know what's beneath them to the south, and you know what there is to the north. And you just know, and you've been there, and you're like, I know what's there, and if I go back there again a second time, which I do, I know what to expect, I know what I'll find there, and you do find it. And there's a little difference in them between the seasons, but mostly it's all like as you found it when you first got there, and you're like, you know, I'm running out of places to explore now, I need to go somewhere else and explore. And that's what he's talking about. That's a feeling that is very common amongst us. Back to him.
We've been here, we've done it. We know what's here. Why don't we? Why aren't we? It's like Bill Hicks said about, you know, if all the governments just stop buying nuclear weapons or arms or whatever. I'm probably misremembering this, like, so sorry.
Yeah, and there he's like, if all the governments did this, like he's appealing to the state for help. And what he's saying is that if they all stopped using nuclear weapons, then we could get to space. Well, first of all, a lot of space travel, propulsion and stuff, is better when it uses nuclear weapons. And not nuclear weapons, but nuclear, like rockets and things to propel the ship. Because you've got to go very far distances, and you need like that splitting of the atom, like the most powerful thing humans have harnessed, the most powerful energy release we can create. You kind of need that to get around in space. But also, like, why is he trying to get rid of nuclear weapons? I don't think he understands MAD works, the MAD, mutually assured destruction. the nuclear deterrent, the idea of arms ownership in general, where you create peace. I was on about this in my last video that I've just done. You create peace by speaking softly and carrying a big stick. You have the weapon, you make people believe you're going to use it, but you don't use it, and peace happens. That way, peace doesn't happen by removing weapons, peace happens by everyone having weapons.
Or arms or whatever. I'm probably misremembering this, like, so sorry Bill. Yeah, if they all stop buying military or nukes or something like that, and fed and clothed the hungry and the homeless.
This is socialism.
What was it? And then we could...
He's relying on the government to end poverty and feed and clothe the homeless. Again, this is not how you end poverty. This is a socialist mindset he's just slipping into here as a normie. We call it being a blue-pilled normie, which is when the normies fall for the far left's ideas. It's very easy for them to slip into because they think it's all... Like, because media, films and stuff have propagandized the normies, the non-political people, into thinking that the socialist ideas are full of kind of kindness and help the poor and help the minorities and anti-racism, when in actual fact that's all a lie. It's tricky to pull people out of that indoctrination, that trap for their minds, where they've been propagandized into thinking the opposite of reality, thinking that works. Whereas if they looked into history a bit more and saw what the socialists did, they'd realize that things like equality is a horrible thing and kills masses of people every time they try and implement it. Yeah, is they're talking about equality. Can we equalize the rich and poor? Well, no. But we can make everyone richer by removal of government and removal of taxes. But this is very pro-government here, very state socialism.
And then we could, as a species, we could just live together, like, in peace.
As a species, the greater good, socialist thinking.
Forever, just exploring outer space. It seems so mad, doesn't it? What's mad is me talking about outer space with a camera in my hand, doing little bet crossings. You can't just say, oh no, it's not, like, you know, shut up, Fox Mulder. You can, but there is some. It's so vast, and you know, even if you're in, let's explore it, man. And I feel like the only way that you can do it is if we all, well, it's money, innit? You'd have to...
It is money.
The governments would have to get into it, but also...
He landed on something true there. It is money. But then he went, the governments would have to get into it. But again, what he's saying is, like, good intentions. Like, he just wants to explore space. And I think we all want to explore space and get further out there. Do a bit of space colonialism. Oh, I bet the left hate me for saying that. Yeah, let's do some colonies. I'm like, oh no, wait a sec. We can't say that the colonialism will hurt the minorities because there's no one out there on the empty planets. Oh, let's defend the soil and the sand. Oh, environmentalism. We can't damage the soil of alien planets, so no one's allowed to colonize them and land there. Yeah, that was an argument that was pushed around for a while. But yeah, he's like, he again appeals to government. He's like, oh, we need the governments to do... No. But there is a money issue, but the money issue is that the government taxes everyone, and so if you work hard you can't actually own your own money that you worked for and therefore get to space with it, and that's the problem.
Governments would have to get into it, but also big companies would have to get into it
Big
as well.
companies, yes.
You'd have to figure a way of monetising it,
Yes.
putting
Good.
adverts on it or something. And everyone would be
I'm not into
it.
adverts, but he's on the right track.
Because at the moment I just don't think, because there's probably no money in it, all this like greed and capitalism clips our wings.
And there he goes again. He just slips blindly into his programming by the socialists that capitalism is to blame and that capitalism is evil, when actually he and the socialists who've conditioned him don't really know what capitalism is. So capitalism is not greed. Like anarchism is not chaos. That's another conditioning. This means anarchism means capitalism. Capitalism means anarchism. This is some propaganda that the far left socialists have put out, making people think that anarchy is chaos and that, oh, you can't have a world without governments. The warlords would take over, not fully understanding that the government are the warlords and they're already in charge. They've already taken over. Capitalism is, at its core, very simply, free trade, unregulated trade. One person saying to another, they will paint their fence if they give them some apples from their garden as payment. And there's no tax on it, and there's no one to regulate the height of the fence because the government don't know of this transaction. The black market, that is called, in essence, which is the free market. All black markets are free markets. You can look back in history and see that when the Nazis were taking over Germany, they were anti-capitalist, and black markets popped up during those times, you know, illegal selling of goods, because the government were regulating the markets and there were huge restrictions on what you could buy or sell, and the public didn't like this, and so various members of the public illegally, which is actually the good way of doing things capitalistically, sold goods and bought goods without following the regulations of the Nazi government. And this happened in other socialist governments, such as the Soviet Union. You know, black markets would pop up where freedom-minded people would want to trade, but they wouldn't want to abide by the oppressive and restrictive government rules that especially thieved their money from all the transactions they were making. They wanted to take home all the money that they had earned via the sweat of their own brow, their own hard work. So capitalism is something that can't happen anything other than illegally under the auspices of a government. But it is very simply just trading with your fellow man and not having that stolen by a politician. It's not a bad thing. Capitalism is in fact the best thing.
All this like greed and capitalism clips our wings. Literally clips our wings.
No,
As a species. And also I was thinking, like,
as a species,
if an alien did come
the
down,
collectivistic
down
we.
here, like if an alien just landed here next to me and he was like, right, Wagwan, where's your leader? What's going on this?
Anarchism promotes no leaders, no masters, no slaves. Having a leader, why do you need one?
On this planet, I'd be like, TBH, Breda, I've got no idea. I don't know what's going on. I am embarrassed to give you, like, to take you to me leader.
So as you should be.
There
shouldn't be one.
All the different countries would have different ways of dealing with it, so it just wouldn't work, would it?
No.
You know, alien comes down, half of us want to eat it.
But he says that thinking, oh, that's why we need unity and that's why we need a world government. He's saying all the different countries of the world will disagree about how to create peace and go to space, and therefore we need all the countries in the world to be one singular country controlled by one oppressive slave master. And he thinks, oh, the aliens would approve of that. Well, he might be right. Some aliens might be evil and authoritarian as fuck up there in space. And therefore they would probably approve of an oppressive one world government because they might have fucked up and did that to their own planet. So he's accidentally bumped into a truth play.
You know, and I always want to learn from it. And so we can't win, can we? Unless we're...
Not that way.
Unless we're...
Not via
there
that
should be
route.
like a space program. What am I trying to say? I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I want to head a global space exploration program starting tomorrow.
Remove the global.
And we're going to get volunteers, not me, not
volunteers.
yet. Volunteers to give
Voluntarism.
their lives
Yes, good.
to travelling and exploring outer space. I'll do it, in fact. I'll do it.
See, this is admirable stuff. He even used the word volunteer. It's voluntary, which is anarchism. Consensual, you know. And there is sacrifice involved in space travel. We have cushioned people in safety. There's been too much talk of safety recently. It's not a good thing. In order to do space travel or even ocean travel, or, you know, even be like a scuba diver or something, or go cave diving, watch the ActionAndAdventureTwins on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm about wedged over here. This is where I'm at. I'm gonna attempt to come back out, guys.
I'm sure they know that what they're doing could kill them at any moment and they'd stop making videos. But they still do it, don't they? And they're quite happy-go-lucky about it. They don't give a fuck. I think they know that they could die from it, but they just do it anyway because they have some sort of lust for the exploration of the caves. And you can say that about space. Very inhospitable place. Imagine saying you want to colonize Venus. I mean, so many people would be dead trying to colonize Venus because it melts fucking metal to liquid. So, you know, what would you have to create to keep a human alive on the surface of Venus? Or even in the skies of Venus? Whereas it's a lot easier if you went to other planets and other moons, like Ganymede. That'd be pretty chill compared to Venus. That'd be pretty nice, I think. Europa, a very cold subsurface ocean though. You could use that for refueling your spacecraft if you add some water propulsion component to it. I used to read a lot of Arthur C. Clarke. Very good writing. You can ignore the aspects of his personal life or whatever. I'm not really sure about the allegations and whether they're true. I haven't been convinced that those are true. I always enjoyed his writing about space and stuff, in the same way as I enjoyed H.G. Wells writing about space in the Victorian era. But yeah, do it voluntarily, why not?
Sign me up. But we don't have to do it in one massive foul, like, we don't have to just rocket ourselves out into space with a pot noodle and a hope. Ooh. You just do it in, just make sure, if we put all our money into it as well, you get Elon Musk onto it, all them big boys.
He said all our money. There's something collectivistic there, you know, you can't hope for other people to pour their money in with your money. You have to trade with them. But he brings up Elon Musk, obviously.
And then what you do, I know, this is how you do it. I've got it. Right, you build a space station, right?
Yes.
Outside of the Earth's atmosphere, you build
Sure.
We as humans build a space station.
Enough of the we. No.
But you make it into a destination that is just proper, not like an Airbnb.
Yeah, it'd be like a holiday. You can make a holiday hotel
five-star,
in space, overlooking
just the best.
Saturn or something.
The absolute best of the best stuff on it, you know, jacuzzis.
Why not? Absolutely. Capitalism for the win.
Ferrero Rocher.
Could trade to bring in the materials, mine
Just
moon
all that
glass
sort of stuff.
from the sand
You
on the
make
moon.
it irresistible, and then you're like, right guys, if you come to this space station, you can come here and you get to just chill for now. You can just be in this luxurious
Not
resort.
for now. He said chill for
And
now.
then people can even
No,
take
you gotta
holidays
pay.
there.
You gotta pay.
For a few weeks and then come back and everyone's like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, you gotta pay for it.
And it's sort of like dipping the toe. it's a way of dipping your toe
Yeah,
into
eventually it
space
becomes
exploration.
affordable over time as
And
it goes
also,
on.
you'll get the big companies will back it because it'll be a money-making thing. You know what I mean? People spending money to go.
Yeah.
Like, where have you been this week? Oh, I've been to, you know, Clacton upon Sea. Where have you been? I've been up there. Do you know what I mean? Halfway to the moon, mate.
See, there's good things about what he's saying here, smattered in. And hopefully his personality comes across and you start getting an idea who HazeOutdoors is and what he's like. He's got this rambling sense of humour to go with his physical rambling across the countryside, which
For
is
Ferrero Rocher.
very
This has got
funny
legs,
sometimes.
This is not just the psychobabble of a man who has spent 14 days walking in the wilderness on his own. This has actually got legs. Who's with me? And then from that space station, right, you set it up all nice, a wonderful destination, but that's just the bronze, right? Even though it's legit, it's
Pay
just
for
the
higher
bronze.
tiers.
And then from there we fly and we set up another space station, the Silver Space Station.
Absolutely.
And if they go
Stepping
there,
stones, get further out.
you can have Easter eggs every day of the year. Every day is pancake day. Do you know what I mean? Just make it irresistible and people will want it. Make it fun.
If they paid to get there,
You know, get people. It's going to have to be like commerce, isn't it? You're going to have to get people to back it, and you've got to. Hey, sponsor that. People could sponsor it, sponsor bits of the space station, and just get people talking about it and getting them into space exploration.
a
Because
lot of good stuff near the
there's
end.
been some nights on this hike I've looked up and it's just been like I've gone for a waz at night and just looked up and it's just been unreal. The layers and layers of stars and how far it goes.
Yeah, another thing about wild camping and such, you do get to see the stars at night a lot more, and you get varying degrees of clearness and clarity when you're looking up at the stars. So on some nights you can see the Milky Way and you can see pinpricks of stars, and there's very subtle differences in clear night skies and things. Like sometimes you get thin layers of mist in front of the stars, and some nights it'll look like the stars are on a brown sky, and sometimes it'll look like the moon is on a green glow of sky. Yeah, there's a lot of inspiration to be had. Maybe more when you're a kid than when you're an adult. When you see it a lot as an adult, it gets a little bit old because you're hoping for a change. I think I'm always hoping for like a supernova to go off in one of the constellations and like, oh, everything's changed, but it never happens like that. We never really see the change in the night sky, but you do look up at the stars and you think, what's going on up there? There must be alien civilizations like us but different, going off doing their own things, conquering, making empires, but we can't see them because they're all far away and the light takes thousands of years to get to us, and we're looking at snapshots of different time periods of each star. Each star we see, the light is coming from us, coming to our eyes from a different time period. So you're seeing a star in the past right next to a star closer to the present, shall we say, which is mind-bending.
This can't be it. I'm just curious, man. I'd like to know in my lifetime, but I can't see who's doing it. It's just a bit frustrating. Who's with me? Huh? Anybody? Right, forget it. Let's track. Whew, what's that? 3 hours, mate.
So yeah, I'll pause there, pause the video, and maybe I can edit this so that it sort of syncs up with the video so you know what I'm responding to. As I say, I like Haze. Really good channel, very friendly, funny hiker dude. You really should watch his stuff if you're at all into exploring the outdoors in the UK. But I would put that down to a momentary lapse. I would say that he doesn't really have a fully fledged political ideology of any sort, and he's being blue-pilled. It just gets a bit dangerous, I think, when he starts bringing up things like capitalism and associating them with greed and then especially bringing up one world government as like being an advocate for it. I think it's very difficult for the normies, the non-political people who haven't looked into things, to fall for the indoctrination and brainwashing of the media, telling them that communism was all right when people tried for it in the past, when actually it led to the most deaths in human history. And it was all to pursue things like equality and helping minorities and saving people from poverty and governments chipping in to help. The government is not your friend and it will not help you. Go check out Haze Outdoors. Most of his videos are nothing like that little clip he did, but he's just kind of being a dreamer for things that we all kind of want, but he's choosing the wrong routes to get to the result of that dream, the conclusion of that dream. Anyway, thank you for watching.
I'm going to get to the White Lighthouse and I'm going to hopefully crack this open and just chin it. There we are, from Fort William to Cape Wrath. Absent friends.